Okay. So we are live and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Penmancy Pen Connect. This is our third season of Penmancy Pen Connect, and we are very, very delighted that we're opening up this season as well with somebody that we opened up 2 years back as well, Anirban Bhattacharyya. Just so to give it, before we go ahead and introduce the author, just wanted to give a background of the session today. As we say that every writer has a distinct voice and a style that is uniquely their own, and there are writers who are able to change their voice in response to the different writing situations and subjects. So today as well, we have such a writer whose professional journey is a testament to the art of versatility. From theater to Bollywood movies to TV shows in partnership with both domestic and international TV channels, from being an actor to producer and director and a stand-up comic, and now a best-selling author, our guest for the evening has been all and done it all. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Anirban Bhattacharya. It's my pleasure to have you here, and we are always very delighted to interact with you.
And I'm, as always, super happy to be here, Kajal. Penmancy is a platform that's really close to my heart. It was the first interview that I ever gave, in connection to my debut book, and you were the one. So it's very comforting to see a familiar face again. Mwah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, AB. Before we begin the session, I would like to admit that I am a little, jittery here because I do understand that this session was actually supposed to be taken by Monica Singh, but she's under the weather, so I stepped into her shoes. So if I sound a little unprepared, please excuse me. But carrying on the session, as you're all aware, Anirban has just recently published his second book, titled Mumblings and Musings. It is a poetry. It is a collection of poetry, there it is, there it is, which Anirban had graciously, sponsored as a book giveaway last month, and three of the winners of our event grabbed this wonderful book, which is not just poetry, but it is also complemented by photographs that Anirban himself and a friend of his has taken, and they have been compiled into this book. Why don't you take us through a little bit about the book, AB?
Okay, so this book has been in the making for the last 30 odd years, and I think most of my stuff has been in my head, or I had written it down somewhere. And so the book that you see here, Mumblings and Musings, actually began its journey here, which is in this red diary when I was in St. Xavier's College,
Wow.
Kolkata, studying, right? And so, like, you can see, if you can see it, it says 24 3 95.
1995. Wow.
95, yes. So this is Mumblings, the title poem, right? So, and it's full of these poems, right? So these are all poems that I'd written. And you know how it is when we are in college, we are full of angst and we want to conquer the world, or we are really pissed off about the world and we want to set things right. So these were very angry, melancholic, and poems and all of that. And also, when you're in college, you're still not, you still haven't faced the real world, right? So you're very optimistic, and you can conquer the world. So at that moment of time, I thought, हाँ, ये poetry जो है, एक ना एक दिन तो जरूर publish होगा. I was so positive, right? And so then I named my book. Can you see this? Petals.
Petals. Yes.
Yeah. So I
Yes.
named this book Petals. I said कि चलो कुछ ना कुछ कभी ना कभी जब publish होगा, my book will be called Petals, right? And then I forgot about it. And then, of course, the lockdown happened, and I had already submitted two other manuscripts to publishers who weren't printing it because of the lockdown. And so I started getting really antsy. And I guess writers will understand that, especially if you're in the habit of writing almost every day, it's like a drug. right? And you
Right.
start getting withdrawal symptoms. And he said, "Oh shit! I mean, come on, I got to write, and got to get something published, right?" So then I spoke to Suhail. I said, "Poetry koi karega kya? Publish?" So he said, I told him, "Ki I want to just do it as a ebook and self-publish." He said, "No, mat kar aise. Why are you doing that? I'll get it published. I'm there." So I said, "But Suhail, poetry hai yaar. I mean, who's going to publish?" Um, he said, "No, no, don't worry. You give me your documents and all of that." And he's got a so Book Bakers has a very strict regimen on how they pitch stuff, which is
Right.
quite very well organized. And so Suhail then took all of these things, and he pitched it out. And within, I think, about 9 days, we got a publisher. And so I was like, "Eh, who's publishing it?" So he said, "There's a publisher from up north." Because I was really happy. I said, "He's got a brave publisher to publish poetry, with photographs and all of that." And then I realized that the name of the publisher is
Petals.
it's the same
Petals.
name of the book that I had given when I was in college, right? So what I conspired in my head,
Head.
the sort of manifested, the universe conspired to make it happen.
Possible. Yeah.
I mean, what are the chances? I could have named my book a fir tree, or I could have named the collections of a giraffe, or whatever, right? I named
But
it Petals,
right.
and then 30 odd years later, here is my publisher, and his name is Petals.
Wow.
So really, really, blessed to have Harpreet from Petals accept the book and get it, printed. So yeah, so that's the journey of the book. It's great poetry because I've written it, and also it's got some amazing photographs by a friend of mine called Ashish Bakshi, who's an
Right.
amazing photographer. Um, and yeah, and it's very easy to read. It's not your intellectual ki "Ore yaar, intellectual wali poetry hai." It's not.
Right. I
It's
just
very very simple.
right. I'd like to read out a verse from one of your poems here, which is
Sure.
yeah. Is there time enough? Is there time enough
Time
for
enough.
time? And the clothesline. These were two bookmarked by Monica. So I just, on her behalf, I'd like to just go ahead and give our audience a preview of the wonderful lines that you've written in this book. You sit and drink your morning cup of tea, overlooking a clothesline on which memories hang out to dry, and it drips and drops, gets seeped into the soil, pieces of your thoughts, never to resurface again. Are you glad you have no memory now to nurture? Are you glad your clothes are getting dry? So these are really kind of deep and meaningful, and they kind of really kind of indulge you. They
Thank you. Yeah,
yeah. So it's surreal actually.
yeah, yeah.
Along with this book, I would also like to go ahead and give an introduction of what basically where we actually collaborated with Anirban from. His first book, The Deadly Dozen, was a true crime which was published by Penguin Random House New India Private Limited. And along with that, now he's coming up with three. Yeah, that's the book, The Deadly Dozen. It's one of my favorite true crime books. And I think there are some chapters in this book which I've read at least twice because I just could
Wow.
not believe. So that's I'm just going off track. I know I just need to get back. I need to go ahead and introduce that this year Anirban is also coming up with three other confirmed releases. One of them is a young adult fiction. The another one is a true crime, and the third one is a coming of age memoir of his growing years in Kalimpong, set against the violent backdrop of the Kurkalang agitation of the late 80s. It's a spectacular lineup of stories that we can expect this year. So, Anirban, I'm coming back now to the subject for today's discussion, which revolves around the versatility in writing. We really could not really pinpoint or circle anybody else who could have actually conversed with us about this. I've always believed that you need to be an expert on a topic to write about it and write well anyway. So looking at your portfolio of books, The Deadly Dozen, and now poetry, mumblings and musings, I'm stuck with the fact that I may be mistaken. So my question is it possible for a writer to do justice to the genres that they are not experts in? What is it that makes the writer create great literary pieces on topics they may or may not specialize in, basically?
So, my question would be, why write in something that you don't enjoy? It becomes a chore, right? If, for example, I write in different genres uh, because I enjoy telling stories, and I don't look at, oh, am I just a horror writer or am I just a true crime writer? No, I mean, I love telling stories, and the genre comes later, right? So for me, and of course, um, I feel I'm blessed. I feel that I'm truly blessed. I have someone upstairs holding my little finger and helping me to cross the street every time I begin writing a book. It's like a father figure or my guardian spirit who's sort of blessed. It is difficult writing in different genres. I don't know of any other author in India who has written across all of these genres. And 2023 is going to see a horror book also, you know,
Oh,
coming,
wonderful. That's
and
great to hear.
and a comedy and satire. So
Wow.
you, so I love telling stories. Period. Now, if I I would think that any author should approach writing from the standpoint of, do I enjoy it,
Right.
right? Do I want to tell this particular story, right? The craft comes later. First of all, it's your emotional connect to the story. If you're
Right.
not emotionally connected, it's going to be a shitty story at the end of the day. How much ever of 14 syllable words you use to
Right.
sort of make it flowery and all of that, it's not going to read authentic, right? So for an author to really do justice and be honest is to be connected to the story emotionally. And then of course the craft of writing and rewriting. But if it becomes a chore, then don't do it.
Right.
Like, I know, tomorrow, for example, if I will never write a mythology, a mythological fiction,
Okay.
I मुझसे होगा नहीं. I mean, at this point of time in 2022, I'm saying मुझसे होगा नहीं. बाद में पता नहीं.
Who knows? So what is it that particular, the idea of having a niche? Why do people
I,
keep
I, I guess it's
implying
easy to
that you need
market.
to have a niche?
It's very easy to market, right? It's
Yeah.
very easy to market for the publisher as well as yourself.
Right.
For the publisher, it is so and so, the best horror writer or the best comedy writer or the best mythological fiction and whatever it is, unless and until you're as big as Chetan Bhagat and you can write your rom-com, all of that, and now go into a mystery murder crime space, with which
Right.
he has done very successfully. But he
Right.
has had that leverage of a name to begin
Right.
with, right?
Right.
For small fries like us, who the world don't know about, it's far more difficult. I remember Suhail telling me in the beginning about 2018, when we first came. He said, I'd shown him a couple of my manuscripts, and he said, but it's best that you launch with a true crime. And I said, Q, because I wanted to launch with the Gorkhaland story, because that
Okay.
was my emotional connect and my
Right.
personal journey, right? So
Right.
he said, no, Vaisa mat kar. We will launch your writing career, with a true crime story, because you have a true crime
Background.
television career
Right.
to leverage upon. When
Correct.
they say, when it is marketed as the creator of Savdhaan India, or the
Yeah.
creator, producer, writer of Savdhaan India, is come out with a true crime book, people will understand that you're not bullshitting,
Right.
right? So what you've written is well researched, will be gripping, and all of that comes. So that's why we launched with the Deadly Dozen. And Deadly Dozen, I remember the pitch went off, and I think within 2 or 3 weeks, we heard back from Penguin, and you know the story. We heard
Right.
back from Penguin and Gurveen Chadda, who's a mwah, God bless her. She's an amazing lady. So she agreed to take the book on.
Right.
In 3 weeks, Penguin got back to us.
Uh,
So it helped to launch with the true crime. He said, "तू नाम बना ले अपना, एटलीस्ट लोगों को पता चले एबी कौन है, उसके
right.
बाद we'll start doing your different genres."
Right.
Because he knew कि मैं थोड़ा सा पागल हूँ, and I will insist on writing on different genres, right? He
Right.
said, हाँ वो कोई दिक्कत नहीं, वो handle कर लेंगे, but हाँ, it's easy to market somebody.
Right.
Let's
Right.
say Amish, mythology, or Devdutt Patnaik, mythological
Right.
fiction, and immediately you have immense love, respect for the author, right?
Correct. Correct. But
So I guess
how do you manage to pivot between the subjects, the style, the tone, and whatever the audience's ask is basically from your work?
um, the only thing I take into consideration when writing from the audience point of view is it exciting, or is it gripping, or is it emotional? Will this resonate with the audience as a reader, right?
Right.
आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि हाँ हाँ ऑडियंस को मसाला चाहिए तो मैं एक दो गाना डाल देता हूँ पिक्चर जैसे, नहीं, आई डोंट डू दैट, बट I try and remain as authentic to the story as possible and see how do I make it a gripping read, or a a great narrative for the reader to dive in. And I focus on the book that I'm writing, and I go into the heads of the characters and in that milieu, right? So when I was writing Deadly Dozen, for a year, every 2 weeks, I was finishing one story, and uh, I was Raman Raghav, I
Hmm.
was Cyanide Malika, I
So you
was
get into
every.
the skin of the
I had,
character
yeah,
first.
I had to, because I had the court documents with me, which said, okay, so Otto Shankar did this and Otto Shankar did that, and then he killed and slit the throat and this and that, all of that. He was taking revenge for this. Now I had to get into his head to figure out what he said to that woman before killing her, right?
Right.
So he killed her because he was jealous. He would have taunted her. He would have done things. So then I was living like that, with each character in my head. And then I try and write maximum 2 books at a time, maximum, so that if I get slightly bored or jaded with one, I can immediately switch to the other, refresh my mind, and keep. It's difficult to tune in
Now
and
my
tune out.
next actually my next question
Yeah,
was this: how do you really
it's
compartmentalize the
very
style?
difficult. It's very very difficult. It happens. I mean, I don't, again, uh, touch wood, blessed, whatever. In my television career, my first job that I had in a company called TV18, it used to be a entertainment production house at that point of time. um, I was part of 9 different genres of shows in a year and a half. Nobody had ever done that, right? So कुछ भी नया शो आ रहा है, एबी को डाल दो उस टीम में, या ये है अच्छा, इसमें प्रॉब्लम, एबी को डाल दो. So I did a chat show, I did business reporting, I did magazine formats, I did comedy, I did horror, everything, because I had the ability to switch. And it's I don't know, but I mean, just blessed. Keep the powers coming as it is from the man or
I
woman
am
upstairs.
absolutely I'm
Yeah,
absolutely sure there is some divine
there
power
is.
which is
There's,
behind
yeah, it
which
can't
is
be. It
behind
can't
this.
be. But now, like, I'm writing of crime fiction, which I'm currently writing, and I had weaned myself off that manuscript for a bit, like almost 2 months. I didn't write anything.
Right.
Now, when I went back, I'm really finding it difficult to get back into the universe.
Right.
Um, so I'm reading and rereading. I've written about, I think, 11,000 words to that one. So
Okay.
I'm just keeping on rereading the same 11,000 words to sort of get back, dive in, find that little crevice, and then I can slip in.
Right.
It's difficult,
Okay.
but yeah. So that's, so like this book, which is my next one, is a young adult
Young adult.
fiction, right?
I've seen this manuscript before.
Yeah. So
So,
it's about inspired. So I wrote this when I was in class six, 1985, in Kalimpong, in Dr. Graham's homes, Kalimpong, which is a school I grew up in the foothills of the Kanchenjunga. Of course, all of us were inspired by Hardy Boys and Enid Blyton and all of that, right?
right.
So this is a book which I wrote. This is the manuscript for my class 5 and class 6. Yeah, and I was so again, I was so optimistic. I named it Book One because I was thinking it's going to be like a Secret Seven, like a
Okay.
series.
Series, yeah.
And yeah, and so like this is my class 5 or whatever, class 6
So
handwriting. And
lovely. So lovely.
yeah, so then this is manuscript. It got lost. It came back. It got lost. It came back, and I got my son to read it. So he must have been about 9, I
Okay.
think. And this is so sweet. In his At the back of the book, he created like a cover. Okay, so he wrote, "This
Oh,
book has
okay. About the
with
author.
me
How lovely.
of the author." Okay, so he wrote all this about the author and all. He was so happy, saying, "Oh, you must publish this book." And then he also was optimistic. He wrote, "Acha, read the first chapter of the next book." He said, "Arey, you should write the next chapter also."
That is so that is so
Oh,
lovely. But then how do you basically target your audience?
I don't.
Abhi I've already made a
Huh.
name in true crime and now I have poetry to back me.
Yeah, it's
Abhi
tough.
now I'm going to switch on YA. How do you go ahead and round off the target audience?
Especially promotions, is becomes very difficult because then again I have to research which are the
Hmm.
platforms, journalists, websites, literary magazines that will cover YA, right? And also then reach out to people who will encourage YA, interaction and all of that. So
आप
it's very
सब कुछ
difficult for.
करेंगे. Penmancy will do everything.
Mwah. So it's difficult. It's very difficult.
Right.
So it's like, but I keep saying it's a learning curve for me, right? I have been 22 years in television. I entered publication of publishing world in 2019, 18, 19.
18.
So I used to watch the stalwarts like Neil, who's fantastic in his PR,
In
right?
his
Neil De Silva. He is
PR.
amazing in his PR.
Right.
So I learned a lot from him. I used to speak with him. Aisa kaise kare, ye kare wo. And of course, Suhail is there. Suhail
Right.
also guides a lot.
Right.
But yeah, but you have to dig all of these. And I'm shameless. As I say, मैं प्यार का भूखा हूँ. I write to people and I say, please help.
I've
Most.
heard that before. But how do you ensure that you captivate the interest of the reader throughout and make sure that your voice, like there is no overlap of your voice happening in one book? How do you make sure that the reader stays captivated and stays on track with where you want to take them?
To tell the story honestly, that is the biggest. A reader can sniff out your bullshit between the lines when
Huh.
you're trying too hard.
Even I believe in this.
Yeah.
That the
When you're
reader is
trying,
very smart and they kind of figure out if you're just trying to, throw in randomness.
correct, correct. I can't be Shashi Tharoor and write somnambulistic or something in my, trying to impress the reader. I can't. That's not me, right? And even if I do, the reader will say, "अरे यार टोपी पहना रहा है, ये अंकल देखो अभी distract कर रहे हैं हमें." तो the thing is, be honest with your craft, tell the story, and also I get into the reader's head. For me, like when I was writing, so the YA book, this one, the YA is it. This was about 5.5, 8,000 words.
Hmm.
Then I realized also, because I wrote it while I was in boarding school, all the chapters have reference to food. The characters are always hungry because I was hungry. करेक्ट, मैं भूखा था, बोर्डिंग स्कूल में खाना नहीं मिलता था, तो हर हर चैप्टर में खाना है. So then I rewrote the manuscript.
Right, right.
Now it's a 55,000 or 52,000. The final manuscript is that much. And when I wrote it, I said, I have to be in a kid's brain. I have to make myself completely into a child. What does a child enjoy reading about? Right? Will the child, and so therefore make it simple, make it interesting, talk in their language. Um, and the book is set in 1985, so I haven't changed it. So there is no modern technology, there's no cell phone, there's nothing. It is set in a world without technology, where the kids have to solve the crime old school, with plaster of Paris, literally. Okay. So therefore, and also it's got a lot of susu potty humor in it as well, because kids love it, and
Kids love
and so do I, and so do I. Uh, so I've got a character who's got a bit of a wind problem. Uh,
Okay.
so, so stuff like that, the kids are going to enjoy it, but it is gripping.
Right.
It's a crime book, so
Even,
it's going to be gripping.
most of the writers that we also engage with on a daily basis, some of them are really brilliant writers. They write from their heart. They really are honest about their craft. They write daily. They follow a, a practice of writing daily, and then exercise their minds. They read around. They figure out.
Mhm.
But I think it's just the marketing of the book, or basically just to get that book out, and to make that noise, that is the most challenging part for most of the writers. So when you have these varied genres that you're writing in, how do you ensure that your voice is heard in that particular? Because if there is a particular person who reads or enjoys reading, they read everything, but they enjoy reading, say, thriller, and they don't enjoy reading probably horror as much, how would you ensure that your voice reaches out to that person as well, who does not probably enjoy that genre?
See, you can't please everybody, right? Uh, you can't have. I mean, you can hope that there will be conversions,
Hmm.
saying that someone who never read horror before will read horror because of the noise you've created, or whatever the reason may be, out of curiosity, great cover, great synopsis.
Right.
But you can't expect all of them to come into your fold. You have to try, though. You have to
Right.
try. So my trick is, if you don't like my book, like especially when I'm like writing on social media, or if I'm putting a post on social media encouraging somebody who says, "Oh, but I don't like, huh? It's like one of those uncles on WhatsApp group. I don't like. Good morning, sunflower." Huh. So, so when they say I don't like, then I say, okay, buy the book. If you don't like it, take money from me. Refund the book to me. I will give
Right.
you money back.
Right.
I'm
Right.
Because I'm confident about my craft.
Hmm.
I am dead sure about my craft.
Right.
Um, and not just the craft, it's just storytelling. I know if I have really enjoyed writing the story, it's going to be it's going to be okay. Um, it's not going to be. No one's going to say what a shitty book, unless and until you're on Amazon and you say my package was torn, 1 star, or the
Okay.
book arrived late, book did not have bookmark, 1 star. So there are idiots like that also.
Right. Right.
But those
You can't
you
please
can't convert.
everybody.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
There's one question. So the questions have started popping in, AB, for
Uh,
you. There's one question which is specific to your YA, and it comes from Chandra. It says, since your story, your YA is set in 1985, aren't you worried about the present generation of young adults finding it difficult to relate with?
I think it's a great question. You almost sound like a publisher. Uh, आपका किताब हम क्यों प्रिंट करेंगे? देखिए, आजकल के बच्चे मोबाइल फोन पे खेलते रहते हैं, पबजी पबजी. 85 वाले में क्या करेंगे? हाँ, वो
Right.
भी सुसु पार्टी. हाँ, no, but Chandra, superb question. No, you're right. I thought about this, and I would think it's a great window for kids to see a book set in that era. So it's not a historical, boring historical where mummy papa will say, "See, Maurya period में ना ऐसा होता था." No, no, no. This is like recent past when your daddy was a child. When
Right.
your daddy used to take 5 kilometers to walk to school. Remember those stories? So during that time, this story is set. Okay, so the parents can tell the children. I think it's a great window for kids to see, and also it'll be a bewilderment on their part saying, "Oh यार, mobile phone नहीं है उनके पास." And I have deliberately have uh, you know um, broken. I love breaking the fourth wall, as we say, and
Okay.
speaking to the audience
Yeah.
directly. And there are situations in the book where if they had a mobile phone, their lives would be easy, right?
Right.
And so I have a character saying, "Oh, I wish we could just carry a telephone everywhere. Then we could have made that call." This is 85, and the kid obviously doesn't know, that 20 years down the line, there's going to be something called cell phone. So I think
Right.
kids are going to enjoy that bit of cheeky humor as well as an insight into a very old school world. And if kids of today didn't enjoy books set in 85, Secret Seven, Famous Five,
Won't have. They're
Harvey
still
Boy,
selling. They're still
Nancy
selling.
Drew,
Harry Boys is
yeah,
still selling.
would have stopped,
Yes.
right? Would have stopped selling by now, but they don't.
Coming back to the topic of discussion today, Lalita has another insight that she wants to,
Huh?
kind of draw
Hi,
attention to.
Lalita.
Lalita says, we often hear that it is important to discover your niche as a writer from a publishing or marketing point of view. It is refreshing to hear an accomplished writer says it's okay to be versatile. So she has like this insight,
Uh,
which
Thank you.
she acknowledges
It,
that.
no, it is very difficult. No, let me tell you honestly, it's very difficult for publishers to sort of market you, because
Right,
what will they introduce? Okay, for example, in a lit fest,
right,
what will the introduction, the person introducing me has to go say this, different genres, all of that, as opposed to simple, you're like the horror king, or you're the comedy king, or whatever.
right,
It's difficult, but do you want to live the rest of your life cheating yourself and denying yourself telling stories?
right.
You got to choose, right? As I say, it's one life. You've got to choose the story you want to leave behind. We'll be all gone. We'll be all gone. COVID has taught me and made me so aware of, we are little, sort of grains of sand in this cosmos, and we'll be gone. And
Right.
3 generations from ours, they won't even remember us. They won't even remember. We won't even be a photo on the wall with Sukhawa Chandan Kapoor. We won't even be that.
Okay.
Do I know who my great great grandfather was? I know by name, but nothing. I mean, beyond that,
Right.
we will be that. So books are the legacy that you leave behind, or arts for that matter, movies, music, and paintings, or whatever. So this is what you leave behind. So don't deny yourself stories. Just say it.
Natasha comes up with stories with this question, and she says, "How do you switch between the characters you write and the real life? And what do you think is the average word count for a manuscript?" So there are like multiple questions
Okay.
she's
So
asking. I think I
so
have
let's
heard
take
so
them
many
one by
contradictory stories. Keep it under 60. Keep it 60 to 75. What is your consideration?
Okay, so let's keep the question on the screen. I have to
Yeah, sure, sure.
go one by one.
All
There's
by one.
subsection A. So exam ka for 2 marks, subsection A. How do you switch between characters you write and real life? So Deadly Dozen was everything was true. So I didn't need to switch to a fictional character, right? So everything was there. So I was in their heads and writing. YA fiction is completely fiction. So when I was writing Vishal's character, I was Vishal. So there's a character called Barkidi, who's obviously the eldest. So I had to think like the eldest sister. How would the eldest sister, react in a certain manner to a situation? So each 5 characters were different. and there would be 5 different reactions to a stimuli. So that's how I sort of switch between voices. My memoir, for which is coming out against, later this year with Fingerprint Publishing, um, those were real characters, and I had to rely a lot on my memory. Uh, and of course, I have letters and my diaries to fall back upon. Uh,
which we keep seeing in, the excerpts of which we keep going, witnessing on your timeline. There are pictures that
yeah,
you keep posting. There are
yeah.
some written
I'm a
material.
I'm a sucker for nostalgia, and I'm Bengali, I guess. It's just I'm inherently a sucker for nostalgia, and I'm very emotional as well. So I keep calling up my batchmates, which is the batch of 1990. We are, I think, about 62 people on a WhatsApp group, and we've not lost touch.
Wow.
Okay, so we are still in touch and all of that. So I just keep messaging and saying, hey, do you remember this incident? What did this guy react like? And if I've forgotten some, so I'm getting real life data as well coming in, helping me out. And so that is, again, completely genuinely true story of what happened to all of us when we were there. And also the mayhem that happened across the hills, where the CRPF became trigger happy, shooting down people,
Right.
all of that. So so that's that. So okay, what do you think is the average word count for a manuscript? Uh, I think a kid's book should be about 55, 50 to 55. Let's say 45 to 55 is a great for a young adult, a fiction. The rest, my first draft, I just send it, right? And if I'm able to defend my draft, the length, I'm not talking about grammatical errors, which there are huge, or or concising sentences, all of that, which my blessed editors help me out with. But if I'm able to um, justify and fight for the length of it, then I let it be. See, we have to be our own harshest critic, right? It's very easy for us to fall in love with our own writing, right? We say, "Kya likha hai, boss?" It's like, I'm a stand-up comedian, so sometimes when I've written a set or a joke, I am laughing at myself. Kya likha hai bhi, are yaar. And then I go and perform, और साला कोई हंसी नहीं रहा है. And I'm thinking, यार मुझे तो बहुत funny लगा था, क्यों लोग नहीं हंस रहे हैं? अरे यार, these people are dumb, they haven't got the joke. That's the normal reaction. The other reaction is, let me go back, start working on the set, and see how do I make it funnier or funny to begin with, right? So, like a craft, you keep writing, writing, writing to get to the thing. This Deadly Dozen, the first manuscript, the first submission was 82,000 words, and we edited it down to about 78 or 77,000. So there wasn't much to edit, or maybe 75,000, I think.
Right.
So there wasn't much to sort of take away, right? There wasn't too much faff. My young adult fiction came in at about 55. It'll be around 52. My Gorkhaland memoir came in at, my true crime, again, another true crime which I'm writing, both of them came in over a lakh, 100,000 words, but they will be around 94, 92,000. But as a writer, you have to also be very strict with yourself.
Right. Lalita has a question which is quite related to what you're saying. So when we're writing multiple genres at a big, to begin with, there are multiple scripts that we're working on. How do you go ahead and manage edit and rewrites and at the same time, or how do you manage that?
They're all in separate folders.
Right.
So to begin with,
Yeah.
it is difficult, and especially when you have editors sending you back for corrections. So what I do is, so suppose they send me chapters 1 to 10, right? So chapters 1 to 10, they will send me. I will keep that file aside in a folder. I will copy and make another uh, uh, document, and I'll call it chapters 1 to 10 AB. So
Okay.
those will have my corrections, which I will send back to
Okay.
the editor.
Right.
Or the other thing is to do it by dates. So you know which is the last manuscript you touched upon, right? Which is the version that you last worked upon.
Right.
Yeah.
Another question that has come up, which is very interesting, is from Urmi. She says, how do you manage to distance yourself from your own writing and critique it before you send it for publishing?
I write very well, yeah. I don't need to. क्या लिखता हूँ बॉस, क्या लिखता हूँ, मैंने क्या
That's actually
बताऊं.
the biggest trap. That's the biggest trap. But
Yeah. No, you have to. You have to. I of course no, see. Of course, I have huge fights with my editors as well. Okay, because I have a certain writing style, and I want to defend that. And like for example, the first book which came out, Deadly Dozen, and Gurveen, and we were discussing, and so I said, as an editor, because I had heard horror stories, right? Editors, पुराना change कर देता है, तेरा तो आवाज ही नहीं रहेगा, पूरा change कर देगा. Editor actually are wannabe writers. They're frustrated. Things like that I'd heard. Okay. So
at some point that could be true also.
बस मेरा तो
फिल्मों में कहते हैं ना, जो एक्टर नहीं बना वो डायरेक्टर बन गया.
करेक्ट. और जो वो भी नहीं हो पाया वो कास्टिंग डायरेक्टर बन गया, क्योंकि वो एक्टिंग कर करके सबको दिखाता है, ऐसे करना तू, तेरे को पता नहीं है, मैं करूं क्या एक्टिंग, if only I had hair. It's like that. So Gurveen was, so I told Gurveen, I'm going to change. How will you work as an editor? So he said, listen, you need to just give me what you want. I mean, what your manuscript is. Be honest with it. Give me a first draft. Don't hold yourself back. Give me a first draft. What I will do is I will check, because it's a true crime. My departments of whatever will need to check the accuracy, the citations. I will check your language, your grammar. How do I make it tighter? But I'm not going to change your style. I am not going to touch it, because we've taken you as an author, or we look at authors because of their own individual style of writing. Otherwise, every book will read the same if I'm going to edit it, right? So I have certain tropes when I write, and which I've realized now after writing 7 books now. I have certain tropes. One of the tropes is I like breaking the fourth wall deliberately. I will break the fourth wall. I'll talk to the reader and go back. The other trope which I have, which I love, is just to go off somewhere else. So I'm telling Kajal's story, and Kajal is talking to a person called John, and then I'll just go into John's story, because I want the audience to know who John is, and I want to know that John had messed up in his college while he was cheating, and whatever it is, and then I again come back to the conversation between Kajal and John. I love these little meanderings because they really give body to your characters, and that is my style of writing. And I keep going to flashbacks. Like my Gorkhaland book is told across multiple flashbacks. Like for example, I am sitting in the present. I will go back to my past, and I will go back into my father's past as well within the same narrative.
Right.
But I find it's beautiful because it's just so enlightening for the reader to go on a journey. The reader doesn't want to be stuck reading words.
Right.
The reader would also like to go meander, come back, pick up where they left off. So that's how. So I think you have to be honest with your first draft, and then hopefully you will get a fantastic editor like I have. Whether it's Fingerprint or whether it's Om Books or whether it's Penguin. Been blessed to have editors who understood that, okay, this is the way it will be. Hope I've answered. I talk a lot, as you know.
Yeah, I think pretty satisfactory responses coming through, because I think everybody I hear is saying, okay, exactly, this is how it is. This is music to my ears. That's only fair to respect a writer's own voice and style. That's been a bombshell of a session, AB. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us, and for one, and
Thank you.
I have learned quite a bit from this engagement. Um, for the audience who are connected with us right now and have dropped in some of the questions in the comments, if we have missed out any because they scrolled up, AB might go back to responding them whenever he gets time. In conclusion, I would like to just remind and recap this session with saying that writers, we need to keep changing the voice, and not make it too simple or to make too complicated. Just write so we can relate, we can make a connect with the readers. And whether it is one genre that you're writing, or a niche that you're writing for, or different genres that you're writing for, if you write it with your heart, and if you write it with the character that you want to bring to that story, it will make a connect with the readers as much. So true versatility to take what's good from every single thing we encounter and harness those qualities to suit our needs and the readers' needs, of course. So we write for the readers eventually.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so yeah. So thank you so much, Avi, for sparing your time and
No,
talking
no.
to us today.
मैं
It has
प्यार
been
का भूखा हूँ काजल, तुम्हें तो पता ही है, मैं तो प्यार का भूखा हूँ, मैं फ्री केक के लिए कहीं भी पहुंच जाऊंगा.
and the cake is always ready for you at Penmancy,
Yes,
and you know it. You can just drop it
absolutely,
anytime. We'll be looking forward
absolutely.
to conversing with AB shortly when he comes out with his next book. I for one, will jump to the opportunity and get him roped in for a
And
talk again.
yeah, and also
We
please
hope to
support
have.
Indian authors. Please support Indian authors.
Yes, yes, yes. And
That is
I'm
that is
very
yeah.
vocal about it. Very
Yeah,
vocal
please
about it.
support Indian authors. There are so many readers and reading groups on Facebook, which I'm a part of. And if anybody says, please recommend to me a thriller, so immediately the recommendations are all Firang names. Patterson,
हाँ,
Ratterson,
all book
Ludlum,
clubs,
ये
all
वो, all
book
of that.
clubs
क्यों?
that I'm a part of, if somebody asks for a suggestion in a particular genre, सब पूरा बड़ा
क्यों?
बड़ा नाम everybody will keep
Correct.
uttering.
आप
So
लो
yeah,
ना, साई का नाम लो, विज धमीजा का नाम लो, वो बहुत ही बेहतरीन किताबें लिखते हैं. अरे मेरा हिंदी निकल रहा है अचानक, क्या हो गया? क्या हो गया? अरे कुछ तो भूत आया, जिन आया मेरे ऊपर. हाँ. So the thing is that Indian authors are also very, very good. You have to try read Indian authors and promote them, buy their books, and also support small bookstores, please. Please, I know it's very easy economically, so much better for us, cheaper to order books online and all of that. But once a month, कुछ भी जाके यार, कुछ भी एक मैगजीन खरीद लो. Once a month, just एक मैगजीन खरीद लो जाके. From your local bookstore. Those guys are really having it tough, yeah, and they have been around, making books accessible for us since the last 40, 60, 100 years, some of those bookstores. So support Indian authors, support Indian bookstores, and please read my books as well.
yes.
It comes with a lot of love and care, and if you don't like the book, I'll give you the money back, and that is a guarantee.
Lovely. With that note, we come to the conclusion of the session. Thank you so much, AB, once again. I
Thank
can't
you.
really thank you enough. I keep
No, no, no,
saying
no. I have to thank you. I have to thank you, Kajal. You're one of the most beautiful people I have ever met. I've been fortunate to have met in this lifetime. The another person I really love is a lady author called Raga.
that.
Beautiful. Please, read her book as well, called
I've
Untold
read
Lies.
her book. I've read
Yeah.
her.
So it's always good to meet and interact with honest people who wear the emotions on their sleeve. They don't have agendas. कि मैं ना अभी ये बोलता हूँ, एबी ना अभी इम्प्रेस हो जाएगा, या काजल अभी इम्प्रेस हो जाएगी. No, I mean, one life. I mean, I just can't stress enough about that. It's one life. Um, be honest, love one another. That's all. We won't be here for long.
Right. Thank you. You're making me emotional now, but thank you so much. Once again, it was wonderful having you here,
Yeah.
AB, and we look forward to engaging again. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
whoever got the time to join and chat with us. It was lovely interacting with you all as well. Have a very good night and a perfect weekend. Please do go ahead and pick books, especially musings and mumblings and other Indian author books.
Yeah.
Please promote Indian authors. Please read Indian authors, because that is where we also go ahead and find our voice. It's relatable. So thank you so much. Good night, everybody. Finally.
Good night. Thank you for joining us.